With jury selection in the Laken Riley murder case starting tomorrow, I want to talk now about this more with Dr. Keith Pounds, who has decades of experience in jury selection. Thank you for being with me in person.
Thanks for having me.
My first thought here, this is such a huge case. I don't know many people who aren't familiar with this, especially it was a campaign, rallying cry for Republicans too. How do you get a fair and impartial jury here?
Well, it's always a challenge when you have a high-profile case like this, because so many people in the veneer might have seen the news, heard the case, might even be following the case themselves. So part of the process of jury selection is identifying those kind of people, and in particular, seeing if they have a kind of a predetermined opinion even before they get into court.
With that, I always think, how do you weed out stealth jurors? Those people who come forward and they have big opinions on this and they want to see a specific outcome. How do you weed them out?
It's tricky. The court has, kind of what I think of as sort of 3 steps that you can use to try to get at finding out a little bit more about those jurors. And the first would be a juror questionnaire. So the questionnaire that jurors would fill out, answering questions related to the case, their background, things like whether or not they follow the news and how closely they follow different kinds of issues. That would be the first step. The next would be the questions that the judge would ask. So finding out what jurors, and of course jurors are under oath to tell the truth. If they've, formed an opinion based on what they've heard about this case. And then the final step would be the attorneys asking questions themselves. And then it really comes down to the skill of the attorneys asking those questions.
Yeah. So each side is obviously looking for something very different in a perfect candidate. So let's start with the prosecution. Who is their ideal person to sit on that bench?
In jury selection, it's kind of a bit of a misnomer, because when you're in process of jury selection, you're really trying to identify your worst jurors. So the really skillful attorneys are looking for the worst of the worst. And you really got to try to weed those people out. And that's what you're looking for with your questions. So the idea would be that those that haven't answered affirmatively to some of your questions might fit the profile of your ideal type of juror. So in a prosecution case, that would be people who would be willing to listen to the evidence, who would believe that the state's, carries the burden of proof at the end of the day. Yeah, and on the defense side, they're looking for jurors that will keep an open mind till the very end.
Yeah. I imagine, too, the defense is a little bit worried here. I know the judge dismissed the push to move the trial out of that county. So talk me through the defense side of things, where their mind is right now on getting people who are fair.
Yeah, and that's really where it comes down to the process of jury selection itself. So the juror questionnaire will be hugely important. Identifying people who may have affiliations, for example, with the University of Georgia. It's one of the biggest employers in the county. So you're going to have a lot of people that work at the school likely to show up for jury selection. Just because you work there, you're not automatically disqualified. So if I'm on the defense side, we're asking a lot of questions of people who have connections to the university, who might have formed an opinion about this case and want to see a certain outcome.
Yeah, and lastly, Keith, before I let you go, this case has garnered so much, global publicity. How does that impact media coverage? How does that impact jury selection and really just how the trial moves forward from here?
One of the things that we hear from jurors who serve on high-profile cases with a lot of media coverage is that the media coverage can be distracting. So I expect that the judge will have pretty strict rules with regard to the media and what they can and can't say about the jurors themselves, so they're not identified to the public. But also, the jury themselves have to not look at social media, for example, or follow the news while they're at trial. But when there's a lot of commotion in the courtroom, or if you have certain people that are recognizable sitting in court to watch the proceedings, it's something that juries will notice.
Yeah, but not expecting them to be sequestered in this case.
That's right.
Keith, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. I'd like to have you back just as trial progresses here. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.